It's something you need to see. Yes, I hate you. Good morning.
Paul, have you ever said, I want that I just spilled bleach on my jeans as a type cover option?
No, I haven't. I
If you
embrace
have,
choice, though.
You could go
Yeah.
to, I forgot to turn some lights off. That's when we got these. If you go to John Lewis, you can get that exact look here. Just that.
Yeah. You know why I can tell this is a great picture? Because the only thing you can see in its entirety is the device, not the cover that they're trying to sell. Right? They also don't show the top of it, like the keyboard side, which is just your basic platinum, signature type cover. But
yeah, it's an option. You don't have to buy it if you don't like it, which I suspect many people won't. But if you do, you could head over to the UK and your local John Lewis store and pick one of those up.
Whatever that is. Do you even understand this business? Did you look at them up at all? See
Nope.
if I still have them up. Yeah, I still do. So this is so first of all, they have an about page that does nothing to explain what this company is. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It is unbelievable. It starts off, when you're part of it, you put your heart into it.
Wow.
At John Lewis and Partners, we're more than employees, we're owners. That's why we're called partners. And that's why we go above and beyond to offer quality products and outstanding service to the people who matter most. You, our customers. Right.
I feel like, and I might be wrong, and I'm sure some people in the UK will correct me, they always put out some holiday ad. It's always a big deal.
Oh, okay. So I've literally never heard of them. So maybe there were big French department stores that do the same, like in Paris and France, whatever. So this is a list of their services, speaking broadly: furniture and design, flooring and window, fashion, beauty and optician, baby and child, electrical and technology, financial, and other services, which includes in-store catering. A little bit of everything.
Yep.
Is what I'm seeing there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Never heard of these people, but I live in the United States, so, ignorance is pretty much written into our Constitution, if I'm not mistaken. How you doing there, buddy?
It's Paul at Thorot.com. I am, I think it's fair to say, Paul, I'm living on the edge.
Like the Aerosmith song or like the Microsoft web browser?
Like the web browser that you can now go download. You got 2 flavors to choose from. You have broken potentially every day and broken potentially every week.
Yep. Broken potentially every month is coming in the future.
Okay.
But yes, that's true. And they didn't do a good job of explaining this because, let's face it, they don't do a good job of explaining anything. But in the content-free blog post that Microsoft put up, they mentioned in passing that there are Canary and developer builds, which are the daily versus weekly channels, as I think Chrome refers to these things. They don't just mimic; they literally follow exactly how Chromium works. So if you're familiar with that kind of thing, they are that. I don't know. I would say, based on the experience we've had over the past couple of weeks using this product, I think from a stability usability standpoint, people are going to be pretty happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that assumes that you're pretty happy with Chrome, because this thing is Chrome. It just is. And so there are some light touches in there, like fonts and spacing and icons, the way that the settings and more menu is structured, that are Edge-like. There are some interfaces like settings and extensions, which don't look like they do in Edge, but are familiar enough. I think that people will be okay with them. But the browser, by and large, today is, for all intents and purposes, Chrome. Right? You sign in with your Microsoft account, not your Google account, but it's Chrome.
And you can use Chrome extensions if you want.
Yeah.
I believe at this time passwords and everything else will not sync yet, but that's obviously coming in the near future.
Yeah.
And it will sync obviously to the mobile devices as well and do all that good stuff.
It's not a huge deal. I mean, no matter what browser you're using today, you can sync that stuff one time. During the beta process, if you have to sync that stuff 1 or 2 more times, it's not a big deal. That stuff I don't think is important. But the thing I'm writing up for today is this notion of there is a crowd of people that really does prefer Edge, and they probably prefer Edge for a number of reasons. It's from Microsoft. It might be part of it. It maybe looks a little more native in Windows 10 because Microsoft styled it that way. And I think that the third big reason is Edge has some unique features that just are not available in other browsers, right? There's the tab management stuff. There's a reading mode and reading list kind of behavior that I think is kind of cool. There are annotations you can do with pen or with keyboard. to all kinds of document types, not just web pages, but to PDFs and EPUBs and ebooks, which are going away, as we know. Those people are not the target here. I'm sorry. And I think I don't mean to call it a lie, but I think that if you read between the lines of what's happening here, they're going to ask for feedback on this thing. And they're going to use this ostensibly to determine what features from Edge they bring forward to this new browser. I don't think we're going to see a lot of them. I really don't. And I don't mean to position that as a negative. I only mean that as just as a warning or just an announcement of sorts for people who are expecting that. Probably not going to happen. Probably not in V1 especially. And the reason I think is that Edge, like the live tiles or whatever in Windows Phone that you also might have preferred, it has been a failure in the marketplace, right? And simply duplicating that again is maybe not the best strategy, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft has telemetry data. They know how much this stuff is really used. I think if there is some overwhelming number of people using certain features, maybe those things will come forward. But just don't expect it to duplicate the look and feel and the total realm of functionality they get from Edge today. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be tough to get some of those really explicitly Edge things like the full PDF reader or functionality, the pen input as well. Yeah. Because again, it's not, Microsoft's got a delicate balance now where they can say, hey, we can go build our own features and make this, uniquely Microsoft. But the further they deviate from that Chromium engine, the harder it is for them. They're creating more overhead. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Right. It's still something they have to maintain and update over time. It's when we think about new versions of Edge, which to date have come with new versions of Windows 10, there's been some, laundry list of new features every time. And it's fair to say that each update has been a materially important update. There's new stuff. I don't know that any of that has really resonated with anybody. It only has like 3.5% usage share. So, we'll see. I just want to caution those people because I if you think about like what's the point of this, right? There's a couple points, but the big one is taking away the time, effort, resources, money that they were spending on this fundamental core rendering stuff, which no one cares about and doesn't matter in the slightest, where standards make sense, and focusing more on the UI aspect of it. But who are you trying to reach out there, right? It's not the 3.5% using Edge. It's the 60-something% using Chrome, right? If you can entice people not to go out and find another browser, not to use Edge only to install Chrome, right? Like that's the victory. And I don't think you can attract those people without this thing looking like Chrome, right?
Yep.
Because I think a lot of people will bring it up and say, "Oh, this is what I want," And I think that's the real target of this release.
Yeah, and the other thing too to keep in mind is I would have to think that they're going to approach the enterprise with some sort of syncing functionality where they can assure that it's only going through, say, their infrastructure, your own OneDrive tenant. It's then become HIPAA compliant and all that good stuff. Yep. And so
that's a win. Yep. That's a huge win because they, using Chrome in the enterprise is like bring your own device. This is basically the masses have spoken and IT has kind of bowed down, with a little bit of reservation saying we have to do this thing. But now you can have the best of both worlds, right?
Yep.
The users can have a browser that looks and feels familiar and renders everything exactly like they're used to. It just works like Chrome. It basically is Chrome as far as they're concerned. But then IT has that control in the back end like you just described. And, it's funny. We keep looking for the reason for this transition. I don't think there is the reason, but I think this is one of the big ones.
I think there's reasons, plural.
Yeah. I think, but this is one of the big ones. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely agree. And then the other big question of the day, Paul, is where in the world is 19H2 and what is Microsoft doing with it? They are pushing everyone to 20H1.
Yeah, so do you have so for people who don't understand the situation, normally there's no normally when it comes to Microsoft or the Windows Insider program, but to date, we've had supposedly 3 rings. I'd argue we really have 4, but fast ring, slow ring, and release preview, right? And each one of them has a definition that has shifted over time, but basically fast ring and slow ring have been the next version, whatever version of Windows is currently in development. So as of today, literally that is 19H1, but very soon will be something else. And then release preview, is also, I guess, focused on the next version. But each of them, it's sort of like the canary developer beta stuff you see in Chromium, whatever. Fast Ring is often a weekly release. Slow Ring is often a never release, but it's supposed to be every so often, every month, maybe, whatever. And then release preview, I guess, during the insider period or during the pre-release period is basically what, drivers and apps, probably the mobile apps as well. And I think what's happening, Microsoft just announced, that they're going to shift this to be very different for this next versions of Windows. So as of sometime very soon, the Fast Ring is going to switch over to 20H1, which is not the next one, but the one after the next one.
A year from now.
Slow Ring they didn't mention, and I think that's a clue. And there's also something called Skip Ahead, which technically isn't a ring, but is a way for Fast Ring users to opt into the next version, if you will, 2 versions out. And so Skip Ahead's going to be brought back into the Fast Ring, which has happened before. But the Fast Ring is going to be testing 2 versions out, which has never happened before, which leaves open the question, which is what you asked, what about 19H2, which will soon be the next version of Windows 10? And they told us basically to stay tuned. I think they're going to change the rings. And I think Slow Ring will become the thing that tests 19H2.
Which makes you wonder what is in 19H2, which makes me think that it's what we might have called back in the day as a service pack.
Or even an R2, something minor. It doesn't mean there won't be new features, right? But I bet what we're going to see is a subset of what the Fast Ring testers will be testing for 20H1, right? That let's pretend there's 20 new features coming that we know about from the Fast Ring, and then sometime this July or August or whatever it is, 1 or 2 of those will pop up in the Slow Ring, meaning they're far enough along and mature enough and they make sense that they can be in 19H2, and there'll be just a couple of things. This gets very close to every other release thing that people have been asking for. I and a lot of other people believe Microsoft should just have 1 release a year of this. I have no idea why they need to. It's still too much. But having 1, big release, not that they'll have to be big, and then having 1 be sort of a maintenance release, as you're suggesting, service pack, kind of a fine-tune release, fix the bugs, and so forth.
Make it ready for the business, which now gets 30 months of support based on that fall release, would make a lot of sense.
And that's a good point, too. I mean, right now, look, a lot of things are changing. It's really hard to keep track. Edge is only really the tip of the iceberg, like since Terry left almost a year ago. Actually a year ago, really, right?
Yeah, it was about now.
We knew about this a year ago now. A lot has changed, and I think a lot more is going to change. It's hard to keep these things in my head, but 1809 just last week, I think, became business ready, as Microsoft describes it, meaning that it can be installed with a band and it's fully supported and in business, and is now goes out to that time frame you were describing. Maybe that becomes the business ready version, right? That
they switch to like a consumer and then business channels.
Yeah, basically, right. So 19H1 in this case is the version that's good for individuals and consumers. 19H2 is 19H1 with 6 months of fixes and is now known to be good. And in the same way that, they're letting people defer quality updates for, I think, of 35 days and 7-day increments, maybe they want to extend the range of, when a release becomes qualified for business to 6 months, right? Maybe that's what this is. This is going to be the new formal policy. We're saying maybe a lot here because Microsoft has literally told us or anybody nothing about this. So we kind of have to guess, but obviously something's changing.
Something strange in the neighborhood. So who are you going to call?
Right.
Yeah.
Some kind of conspiracy theorist, probably. I don't know.
I was thinking maybe the Ghostbusters.
Somebody voodoo, somebody, I don't know, palm reader.
Satya Nadella, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, not a whole lot went on over the weekend, thankfully. It was kind of a quiet time. Yeah. And shout out to everybody who said Friday's episode brought culture back after we went from shampoo to fine art. It was always keeping it mixed up.
If I knew my way around that place, I could have showed you. I think Whistler's mother is there.
Wow.
There are, Leonardo da Vinci is kind of known as more of a not a designer, but like a creator and inventor. but he was also actually a painter. There's a couple of Da Vinci paintings in there, which I did see. I'm not really big into art, even though I went to art school. I mean, I always hated art history, and I'm pretty bored by museums unless it's something like Natural History Museum with dinosaurs and stuff like that, or the Air and Space Museum, which is obviously about space flight and just flight, I guess. American history is pretty good, but art museums to me are kind of tough, and apparently they are for everybody else too, which, as I mentioned that day, huge lines at the other museums and no line there. But it's a beautiful building, and I got to say, you're going to be going to DC soon, and for anyone who goes to DC, obviously you might have your high level stuff that you want to hit first, but you'd be shocked at, we went to like the portrait gallery, for example, and not again because we love art, so we're going to 2 art museums, but not really that interested in most of the art. But the building itself is gorgeous. Like these buildings are amazing, right? I mean, it's as nice as anything you'd see in like a Paris or London or wherever. I mean, it's the architecture and the sheer beauty of the buildings is worth it. And all this stuff is free. I mean, DC is amazing.
Trying to this is hot off the Twitter press here, Paul.
Oh, it's happening.
So
no, it's not happening until this fall, though, right?
This is Sonos and Ikea are teaming up, and what they've literally done is put a lamp on top of basically a Play One, and you can now buy a lamp speaker. And then there's all these other ones, but you can get.
So I thought these were not happening until the fall, but I didn't see today's announcement, so maybe something has changed.
They just announced them. I think they're coming later this year. Whoops.
Yeah. So that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. But then it's also kind of in keeping with the quirky IKEA weirdness. How much is that lamp?
I believe it's $179.
Okay, so assuming it sounds as good as a Play One.
Yeah. I'm interested in those little flat speakers too. Those could be a little interesting addition. So
yeah, exactly.
Because I haven't spent enough money on audio equipment.
Yeah.
So you got anything else for today, Mr. Powell?
No, I guess not.
Wow.
Yep. Tired. A lot of traveling. It's going to get worse, as you know.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I don't know.
Well, it's going to get more. I guess maybe that's the right way to say it. I will say the one nice thing about this spring in travel is that without an exception, like all of the places that we know we're going to are like excellent.
Yep.
Like I'm actually really happy about it.
Yeah, there's no Vegas. Let's see, we got Seattle,
Chicago,
Miami, and DC at least so far.
Even something like Ignite, which is in Orlando, which is not exactly a desirable destination, at least for me, is happening later in the year, right?
I was about to say, I think it's going to be a pleasant.
I mean, even that will be better. Yeah. So rather than say September, which is the most brutally hot time of year there, it's just terrible. So yeah, I mean, great. Plus, I
suspect I'm
get to go back to DC,
into another Disney trip. Suspiciously,
my wife, we're running out of parks. We got to.
I know this is.
We got to do a different park. I think that's the key to these. Maybe Universal or.
What I want to do, and I don't know if this is the timing is so sensitive on it, is if there was ever a rocket launch, I would go down there and just get a car and just drive right over to
but
Kennedy.
Do they even do that though? Does Canaveral have launches a lot now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do that too. I think that'd be awesome.
But again, like that's not on our. We could still go to although I think it's a significant drive. Maybe we'll see. Although it's not far from Miami.
We're also going, so maybe it would make sense to look at the schedules for both times.
Yeah, we will have to. You will have to see here.
Miami's probably going to be pretty steamy in May, I would think. But it gets hot.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna be bringing some sunscreen, I think.
You might as well just bring like a gelatin, skeleton, like exoskeleton that you could kind of step into.
And that wraps it up for today, folks, and we'll be back tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful Monday.
Like a giant red-headed jellyfish.
Words hurt.